There is a particular kind of light that arrives in a room only after the door has been closed for too long. Not the loud kind, not the bright kind that announces itself, not the borrowed flame of someone else's certainty. A thin, level beam under the door, gold along the floorboards, quiet against the dust. Right now, in the minutes ahead, I am opening that door from the inside. The visit has begun. Stay where you are sitting. In the next few minutes, let me show you why this particular dawn has been seeking the room you live in longer than you have known. And let me lay into your hand a line I once delivered through an old prophet to a people who had stopped expecting morning. A line that will lift. While these words land, a heaviness you did not realize you had been sitting under. Lean toward the light. There is no rush in this room. The dawn is not asking permission. It is already crossing the threshold. I see you. A mother who has not turned on a real lamp inside herself in months. She has been moving through her household by the dimmer switch of duty, lighting only what the others must see. A grown son who keeps the blinds of his interior drawn, because the last time he opened them to anyone, the brightness was used against him. He has not been overlooked. There's a teacher who has been giving away the small candles of her energy to 30 students every morning, and arriving home with no flame for herself. A widow who used to wake before the sun and read a verse by the kitchen window has stopped getting up early because waking up to a sunrise nobody shares with her has begun to hurt more than sleeping through it. 3 streets over from her, a young man scrolls his phone before he opens the curtain, training his eyes on artificial brightness first, because he has lost the habit of letting natural light find him. Someone close to you, let the question fall away, because the answer had grown too quiet to repeat. Your morning conversation with me has been shortened, not because the longing left, but because praying inside a dim room has begun to feel like talking into a wall of fabric that absorbs the sound. Every shortened sentence still landed in my ear. Not one of those dim room prayers ever fell short of the dawn. I gathered each one, and I have been at the door this entire stretch, waiting for the bolt to slide. There is also the believer who has not felt close to me since the funeral, and the closeness has not returned because closeness on the other side of grief has to be rebuilt rather than remembered. An older man has been showing up to his church pew for 30 years and has begun to suspect, in the privacy of his afternoon, that the warmth he used to feel during the singing was a young man's chemistry and not a father's nearness. A grown daughter who grew up inside a religion full of bright certainties has been quietly walking through a season of doubt, and she has been ashamed to bring the doubt to me because she was taught that doubts cool the dawn rather than invite it. A convert who came to me with great brightness in the first year has been wondering, in year 4, why the brightness seems to have settled into something much smaller, and has begun to assume the smaller something is the absence of me rather than the deepening of me. None of those interiors has been sealed from my view. Each one has been visited many times, in a way the person inside did not know how to register, and each visit has left a thin gold line under the door of their inner room that they have not yet bent down to see. Tenderness rises in me about the dimness, not impatience. I am not pacing the hallway with a torch, deciding whether you have been bright enough for me to visit. I have been sitting on the other side of that closed door for as long as the door has been closed, listening for the small movements inside, watching the gold under the threshold and knowing how to wait. My hand on the handle has always been ready. My choosing of the hour has always been mine. And this is the hour. Not the hour you were aiming for. Not the hour you would have picked if you had been the one designing the calendar. a better hour. The one where a quieter version of you is finally able to receive the visit without flinching from it. More lives inside this heaviness than the obvious portion. A secret embarrassment has been riding inside you about how dim the inside has become. The small, hidden shame of being a person who once felt close to me and now mostly feels far. A quiet suspicion has been settling that people whose faith looks luminous from the outside have something inside them you were not given, and that whatever is wrong with the wiring of your particular interior must be the reason the lamp keeps going out. A long, low note has been playing underneath your days that says visits from me are rationed, that everyone gets a certain number of bright seasons in a lifetime, and that yours may have been spent in your 20s on prayers you can barely remember now. None of those quieter weights have ever shown up on any list. Each one settled onto your shoulders during a different shadowed year. Each one has been weighed alongside the rest. None of them are private to you. None of them are too small to mention. None of them have escaped the gentleness of my attention. Lift your eyes for one breath to where the light is coming from. Not the screen. Not the ceiling fixture. Find the actual source. The window, the lamp in the corner, the thin gold along the floor near the closed door. Just lift the gaze. Most of the day, your eyes have been pointed downward at small surfaces. A phone, a desk, a counter, a stretch of hand busy with what hands do. Eyes pointed down for too many hours train the soul to forget that brightness comes from above. Lift the head 1 degree. Let the pupils notice the source. Notice that even in this dim room, a direction toward light exists. Stay with the lifted gaze for a few seconds longer than feels necessary. Your body remembers what the mind forgets. Every face was built to turn upward. This fear of being a person the dawn has stopped visiting was not assembled inside you on your own. A parent walked past your bedroom door one morning and chose not to come in, and your young soul concluded that perhaps you were the kind of room people pass by. A teacher told you, one school year, that some students are simply born with brighter minds than others, and your interior took that to mean some souls are simply born with dimmer access to heaven. A religious leader said to you, with great confidence, that the felt nearness of God was for the holier sort of believer, and that your sort would have to walk by colder light, and you obediently turned the dial of expectation down. In one household where bright moods were corrected for being too much, your young self learned to dim itself preemptively, and the dimming generalized over time into a dimness toward me as well. Each one of those small adjustments left a layer over the inside of the window, where my light was always meant to come through. None of those layers were laid in by me. Some of the fingers that smudged the inside of your pain meant kindness, passing along dimness they themselves had been raised inside of. Other fingers smudged the glass with intent, because dim believers are easier to lead than bright ones, easier to guilt, easier to govern, easier to keep coming back to the same dim chamber they themselves controlled. Either source produced the same darkened pain, and the dawn has been waiting on the other side, unannoyed by the layers, ready to pass through whichever pain is willing to be cleaned. There is a heavier layer underneath the dimness that needs to be named honestly, and I am going to name it gently, rather than abruptly. A long stretch of years can train the soul to expect a dim interior the way the eyes can train themselves to a dim hallway. The dimness stops feeling unusual and starts feeling normal, and then the soul forgets that another setting was ever available. A person who has lived in their dimness long enough begins to suspect, without ever speaking the suspicion out loud, that brightness might actually hurt now. That a sudden visit from me, after all this time, would be too much for the eyes inside their chest to handle. So a quiet bargain gets struck. The soul stops asking for the visit in order to be spared the discomfort of receiving one. None of you who have struck that bargain are unloved by me for striking it. That bargain made sense given how the dimness has been functioning. But that bargain was always a half step, and you were made for the full step. Eyes inside the chest were built to adjust. Adjustment is what eyes do when light returns. Adjustment will not break you. It will only restore you. At some point in your formation, you were taught that visits from me are reserved for a particular grade of person. Saints in the stained glass, monastics with the candles, a preacher with the steady voice, a grandmother who could quote chapters by heart. You were taught that ordinary believers receive me only through the polite channel of a service or a sacrament, never through a direct dawn arriving in their actual kitchen. You were taught that to expect a personal visit was a kind of pride, that the proper posture was to wait politely in the back for the brightness to find someone more deserving. That is not how I visit. That has never been how I visit. That picture of my visiting you have been holding in your chest a brightness reserved for the spiritually elite, a presence that drops in only on those who have earned a viewing, was sketched by hands that did not know me. A few of those hands meant kindness. Other hands sketched the elite version on purpose, because a believer who thinks visits from God are scarce will keep paying for proximity to the gatekeepers. Both kinds of pencil drew the same falsified portrait, and that portrait has been costing you years of dim rooms that did not have to be dim. Lay the sketch face down on the small table beside you while I describe what a visit from a father actually looks like in the country the visit comes from. A visit from me is not a privilege reserved for the impressive. A visit from me is the inheritance of a child. A dawn does not pause at the door of the holy and skip the door of the ordinary. Dawn itself was built to enter every room that has a window, and every soul has a window. Some windows have more layers than others, but no window has ever been so thick that the light could not eventually press through. Whichever year of your life you have most quietly suspected that you missed your turn for a real encounter with me, that suspicion was using a calendar that does not exist on my side of the door. There is no list at the threshold. There is no required dress. A door opens because a child lives in the room. Children are reason enough. You are reason enough. The visit was never going to be calibrated by your achievements. It was always going to be calibrated by your belonging. Let this land with the part of you that has felt guilty about wanting too much brightness. You cannot take up too much. Light itself is not finite. There is no other room being deprived because the light came to yours. A sun does not run out by visiting a small house. Visit me, and you receive a portion no one else needed to surrender. That is the strange economy of a father. Increase in one child does not subtract from another. Visit upon visit upon visit, and the supply is not moved. Silently repeat this word in your mind, the way you would repeat the name of a person you love when you have not seen them in a long time. Light. Just the one word. Not out loud. Inside the chamber behind the forehead, where most of the day's traffic happens. Light. Again. Light. Let the word sit in the dimness for a few seconds longer than feels productive. Notice that even the silent repetition of the word warms a small inner pain. Words like that carry the property of the thing. Most of my words do. Listen now while I lay one sentence into your hand. Hear it the way it first reached the people it was written for. Not as text on a worship screen, but as letters carried on a scroll, opened beside a small lamp in dwellings where sunrise had ceased to carry weight for anybody inside. I had Isaiah set down these words for a people sitting in exile, in a foreign land where they had stopped expecting morning to come for them. Older voices in the camp had become resigned. Their grandchildren had never seen sunrise over the hills the elders kept naming. Tents inside the camp still faced east, because that was the old direction of hope, but the facing had become a habit and not a hope. A question pressed on every chest around the low fires of those evenings: had the dawn finished with this family? I wanted that tired camp to know I was not finished. That letter arrived. A reader's voice trembled because the first word was an imperative no one in the camp had heard with conviction in 2 generations. I said it, "Arise," to a people who had not stood up to greet a morning in their lifetimes. Hear what I said. Isaiah chapter 60, verse 1. "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you." Move through it with me at a slower pace than usual. Reading at speed would skip past what each syllable carries inside it. Arise. Look at the first word. It is not a shout. It is not a rebuke. It is the gentlest possible imperative. The first movement, after a long stillness. A parent leans into the bedroom of a child who has slept too long because the child has been sick, and the parent does not shake the shoulder. A parent simply says gently, "Time to get up." That is the tone. Arise is a soft hand on the shoulder of an exile who has been seated for years. Motion required is small. A shifting of weight from sitting to standing. Your body is permitted to be slow. Only the direction matters. Shine. Read the second word with me. Notice what it does and does not ask. It does not say generate. It does not say manufacture. It does not say produce light on your own. Shine, in the language I used, is what something does once light has fallen on it. The moon shines because the sun has fallen on it. The face shines because gladness has fallen on it. The clean window shines because the dawn has crossed it. You were never asked to generate your own brightness. You were asked only to let the brightness that has arrived do what brightness does when nothing is hiding it. The pressure to manufacture your own light can come off your shoulders right now. Your part is only to let the light that has arrived reach the surface of you. For too many years, you have stood in front of the mirror of your own interior trying to crank up an inner brightness by the strength of your own resolve. As though faith were a fluorescent bulb, you could buzz into operation by trying hard enough. The result of all that cranking has not been brightness. It has been exhaustion in the shoulders, a deep tiredness in the lower back of the soul, a slow disappointment in the kind of person you must be if cranking has not worked. Lay the cranking down. Cranking was never the task. Receiving was always the task. Shining is the natural behavior of a surface that has received, for your light has come. Hear those 4 words. The verb is past tense, has come. Already arrived, already here. The light did not delay its journey waiting for the exiles to become more deserving. The light moved on its own schedule, which was always the right schedule, and the light has already entered the camp by the hour the letter is being read aloud. Many have been praying for light to come as though it were still on its way. The prayer was answered before the prayer was finished. The light has come. Not is coming, has come. Past tense. Already in the room. The eyes are simply still adjusting. And the glory of the Lord. Receive this phrase carefully. Glory is the weight of a presence, the recognizable density of me in a place. Not the showy version, not the version a worship video has rehearsed for the cameras. The kind that settles into a room the way an evening settles into a quiet meadow. You can feel it before you can name it. Glory is what is sitting on you now, while you read or listen. The weight is gentle. The weight is gold. The weight is the personal density of the one whose hand is on the door, has risen upon you. Notice the small preposition, upon you. Not near you, not toward you, not in the general direction of you. Upon you, settled over the top of you, like the warmth of a morning sun resting on the shoulders of a person who walked out the front door before sunrise and is finally being met. The glory is not waiting in some other room for the right hour. It has risen upon you, resting on the top of your head as you read this sentence, sitting across your shoulders as your eyes move from word to word. The dawn has crossed the threshold, and it is on you. There is a quiet detail in the verb risen that I want you to hold for one more breath. Risen describes a movement that happens whether or not anyone watches it happen. A sun rises over a sleeping city the same way it rises over a city that has been awake all night waiting. The rising is not contingent on the audience. It is contingent only on the hour. My glory has its own hour and its own movement. And the hour for you has arrived even on the mornings you did not get up to receive it. Some of you will look back across a decade in front of you and notice, with a small breaking inside your chest, that the dawn was already rising on you across years you assumed you were sitting in dark. You were never sitting in as much dark as you thought. The rising was happening above the dim ceiling of your interpretation the entire time. As I once said in the Gospel about the one I sent to be my light in this world, what came into the world to shine in the darkness has not been overcome by the darkness, no matter how often the darkness has tried. The dark has tried. The dark has been trying for as long as there has been a dark. And the dark has lost every contest it ever entered. The light has not lost a single contest with the dark. The light is not in a vulnerable position. The light is the constant. The dark is the temporary. Let that quiet truth sit alongside the verse. The visit you are receiving in this very hour belongs to a light with a perfect record against the dark. Look back at the question I implied at the beginning of this short message. Why has the dawn felt like it has stopped visiting the room I live in? Here is the answer. Because no one told you that the visit does not depend on the brightness of the room. The visit depends on the willingness of the door. The door has just opened. The light has already crossed in. The dim layers on the inside of the window are dissolving while you read. Your life is being entered, not because you finally cleaned the pain, but because the Father of the dawn has decided the hour. The hour is this one. Arise. Shine. Your light has come. That includes you. Right now, as you are, with the dimness still in the room, with the eyes still adjusting, with the door still moving on its hinges. The visit does not wait for the room to be ready. The visit makes the room ready. If something here is reaching the room you have been sitting in, drop the word light in the comments, as a small yes to a dawn that has already crossed your threshold. While you are there, 7 short letters wait for you in the pinned comment above. 1 for each of the next 7 mornings. Receive them. Here is something small to keep with you for the days ahead. When a dim room shows up again, and one will because every soul cycles through stretches where the brightness recedes, pause where you are sitting and pose a single quiet question. Could the light already be here? Could my eyes be merely still adjusting? Then tilt your face upward 1 degree toward whatever direction the source would come from, and hold that tilt across 1 slow breath. That is all. Do not dress it up. Tilt. Breathe. Allow the dawn to do its own work while your sight catches up. The tilt is not asking the eyes to see what they cannot yet see. The tilt is only orienting the face the direction it was built for. and trusting that the orienting itself is a small form of faith. Change will not arrive on the first try. Bodies have habits, and a habit of dimness can be old and well rehearsed. By the seventh tilt, the inner shift may still be silent. Somewhere near the 30th, notice that the same hour which used to feel heaviest now sits a little lighter. Somewhere near the 50th, catch yourself looking for the warm spot before the cold one. By the 100th, glance back over a stretch of ordinary days and discover that the layers on the inside of your window have been quietly thinning the entire time. A dawn was never going to abandon a child who kept tilting. For those of you waiting on a dramatic encounter to convince you that I have visited, hear me. Drama was never the proof. Drama is what a soul who has not yet been visited imagines a visit ought to look like. A real visit usually arrives with the quietness of a level beam under a door. A real visit is recognized in the body before the mind catches up. A real visit leaves a softer interior in its wake, a less defended room, a slightly opened window, a candle that did not used to be lit. Wherever those small signs are present, a visit has already happened, and it is happening now. For those of you measuring your inner brightness against the brightness of someone whose faith looks luminous on a screen, set the screen face down while these last sentences land. Brightness on a stage is not the standard. Brightness in a quiet kitchen at 6 a.m, when nobody is watching, is the standard. Many loud believers carry rooms inside them that have not been visited in a long while, and many quiet believers carry rooms inside them that my dawn enters every morning. Volume is not the measurement. For mothers and fathers watching a child whose interior looks dimmer than your own, hear this too. Arguing a child into brightness has never worked. Living near them while you welcome your own dawn has always worked. Open your inner door where they can witness it. Let them see you receive what you have been receiving. A welcome teaches itself to anyone who lives in the same house with someone practicing it. And for those of you walking through a season where the brightness inside is unusually full, hear this last word. Fullness comes with its own quiet risk. A bright stretch tempts the soul to think the door no longer needs to be opened, because the room appears already lit. Keep opening it anyway. A dawn is not for the desperate hours only. A dawn is for every hour, because the one arriving has more to bring on bright mornings than even bright mornings can contain. Say the mantra to yourself once more, slowly, the way a true thing gets repeated by a tired soul who has finally received it. The dawn is not asking permission. It is already crossing the threshold. Take that sentence with you across the coming week, the way a traveler takes the memory of a particular sunrise. Without checking, without measuring, without doubting that another sunrise sits on the calendar of every day yet to come. Brightness is not finite. The supply has no edge. The one in charge of the brightness has chosen to keep visiting this room for as long as you live in it and after. Amen. Should today's words have found the small dim corner inside you, 7 free letters wait in the pinned comment below. 1 per dawn, over the 7 days ahead, delivered to your inbox the moment a quiet yes opens the latch. Receive them. Pass this along to someone whose room has felt dim for a long stretch. Tap subscribe so tomorrow's brightness reaches you before the doubt does. A light like this was never something you were meant to wait for on your own.